Hi, hello, and welcome back to another episode of my podcast. Now, what was I talking about? My name is V Noir, and this week I'm talking about the movie Pillion, which is a, I guess it came out last year, maybe? Let me check. Yeah, it technically came out last year. The US got it this year, and it is about, or to read the synopsis, a directionless man is swept off his feet when an enigmatic, impossibly handsome biker takes him on as his submissive. And I didn't really read the description or watch a trailer for this too much. I kind of went in blind. The only thing I knew about this movie was that was actually from the Skarsgård's dad saying that because I guess somebody had questioned him about his son being in a BDSM movie, and he's like, I don't care. And I was like, okay, well, I want to check it out because I'm like, oh, BDSM. And for me, who has been in and out of the kink community, I have a dominant side. I love submissive men. I've talked about this kind of previously on one of my mini-sodes. I'm specifically into like femdom or being like a dominatrix or something, which as someone who's like non-binary, it's like that those are very like gendered terms, but that is essentially like aesthetically, that is what I would look like in the event of like a kink scenario. I wouldn't necessarily lean more masculine, I would lean more feminine in kink scenarios. So that's why I enjoy that. And so I was like, okay, interesting. So we are talking about a movie. Well, this is a movie about a BDSM relationship. And so I was definitely interested because I'm like, okay, we're getting more movies about BDSM relationships and kink in general being perceived in the public eye. And I'm always interested in how people portray this. And apparently, this is also based on a book. So I'm very interested to read the book. But yeah, it definitely starts off with this guy who's he's very like insecure and like awkward and shy, but he's also a part of a quartet, and he is dropped off in at a bar, and it's like Christmas time and he's performing, and then after he performs he is on a date. It's a blind date that was set up by his mom. So we get a hint that like, oh, his parents accept him of his sexuality and things. And at this time we also do see the Skarsgård that I kind of mentioned, Alexander Skarsgård, and then actually to kind of get into who everybody is. So Alex Skarsgård is playing a character named Ray. Our main character is Colin, and he's played by Harry Melling. And then we also see Colin's dad and his mom. His dad is played by Douglas Hodge, and his mom is played by Leslie Sharp. And then, let me rewind just a teeny bit because the the name Pillion, it definitely has these connotations in general anyway. So the definition of pillion is that it is a secondary pad, cushion, or seat behind the main seat or saddle on a motorcycle or moped. It is a passenger. A passenger in the seat is said to ride pillion. Um, so there you have it. Like it already, like if I knew from the title, if I knew what the title meant and if I knew more about like motorcycles and stuff, I would have realized that this would probably try to play on the sort of history of kink and BDSM because it does come from biker gangs and whatnot that were created, I believe, after World War II, and it was a lot of sort of community building that happened within the gay community. And this is also where the aesthetic of kink and stuff comes from, and it being so wrapped up in leather, because again, it comes from these biker gangs, right, that came together. They were brothers in war, and now they're back home and they don't have anywhere to go. And then they're also gay, so they're getting persecuted in this way, even though they fought this war. So they came together, uh, you know, created these biker gangs, and also essentially spawned kink as we know it. It's expanded more, but kink and BDSM has like this history in, or at least like the leather community has this history in biker gangs from the 1950s and like that kind of community. Because otherwise, like BDSM as a concept has existed for much longer than that, but specifically like the leather community and that aesthetic came from this specific time frame, like in America. And so, yeah, I would have been like, okay, so this is someone, I would have realized from that title alone that this was created by someone who has more of an understanding of kink, because overall, in general, to give like kind of a spoiler free review of this, this is a very good character study of someone getting into a relationship because they want to feel loved and needed without actually advocating for themselves and telling what they want, and kind of just going along with the other person's like wants and needs, and not actually saying what they themselves want and need, and not even really knowing what they want or need. And especially in a kink dynamic where consent is very important, and not only just consent but also talking through what your likes and dislikes are prior to doing a scene with your partner, because that is what it's called. When you establish something, it is called a scene. When you get in, because it's role playing essentially, right? Like you're role playing as characters or archetypes or something like that. And then when you're in that role, you're doing a scene, and you can stop the scene or the play or whatever you want to call it. I'm just using general terms within the community that you don't have to use them. I'm just saying them. But yeah, that's where safe words come into play, because it's not just like the sub or the bottoms right to use a safe word. The top or the dominant can also use a safe word if things are getting too much for them as well. Because at the end of the day, we're all people and we all have different limits, and you should be able to say stop, even though stop is not a good word. That is not a good safe word, because for some people that could be a part of the play as well. Because then when you get into consent, non-consent, that could be one of the words that they use to actually mean keep going. And even outside of kink communities and stuff, like some people do like doing that as well. It's like, no, stop it. But again, if you don't discuss these things with your partner, then you won't know that that is something that turns them on. And so again, it really does come down to having conversations, having open communication, and talking about these things with the person that you are trying to be with. And so to get back into the movie, he's on this blind date that his mom set him up with, and he also sees Ray here being attractive, because he's this conventionally attractive white man. I'm also like, where is Skarsgård from? Because I know I was just basing it off of his name, but I really wasn't. I'm actually not sure. Okay, yeah. So he's from Sweden. That's what I thought. But he has this like accent. He's in Zoolander. I'm looking at his Wikipedia. What do you mean he was in Zoolander? What the fuck? Now I have to look that up. Because I'm like, wait a minute. Were you in Zoolander? Because I don't remember that. But I do realize that like when I look back and watch back different movies, uh I realize that there are actors that I know of now in him, and I'm like, whoa, I didn't. Now you're way more of a big name to me, but I didn't know who you were when I initially watched this. So I'm like, is that one of those instances? Probably. Unless the only scene I can think of is the scene in Zoolander where they are playing with gasoline and, everybody dies because somebody uh uses their lighter. And I'm just like, oh shoot, is that the scene he was in? Because I don't know. He could have been anyone. But yeah, so I'm thinking about the movie again, but this is one of it's kind of a cautionary tale. Thankfully, it ends on a good high note, but it is a cautionary tale of not jumping into a relationship without knowing what you want from it and communicating your wants and needs, like that is definitely what this movie is about, or that's the lesson to be learned from this movie. And I like it a lot because of that, because I do feel like we do get these more toxic uh kink dynamics that happen in these movies that sort of glorify it, and which isn't great at all. And then it also shows people like, oh, those kinky people are something's wrong with them, because I think about like, even though I haven't fully watched these movies, but I've seen people talk about them, but like the 50 Shades series of movies where in the end he gives up BDSM because, trauma and everything. And I'm like, that's not, I mean, sure. But I mean, if anything, he could have, trauma works in so many different ways, but he could have easily been someone who got off to women that looked like his mom, like beating him up or degrading him or something, like it could have been the complete opposite dynamic with him. But either way, this is a good movie. I like that they talked about, the different, we were introduced to different dynamics of the different bikers and stuff. And I love that his parents were also very supportive of his sexuality, which is great too. But yeah, to get into it, while he's on this blind date, Ray talks to him briefly and writes on a card. I think this is when this happens. Basically, he gives him a date and a location for them to meet up, essentially. And, you know, it's the holidays. I think it's Christmas, and his family's over, and everybody's just like, you're just so single and everything. And this biker guy, like, you're really into him or something? Like, are you gonna really meet him or whatever? Like, who is he? He's like, I don't know. And I'm like, this is such a a very like typical gay man experience of just like meeting someone on an app just to like hook up and then not really knowing anything about this person, because that's essentially what happens to him in their first meeting. He meets him with his dog. Ray has his own dog. His dog is very adorable. It's like this big chunky dog. I don't know dog breeds, so that's all you're gonna get from me. It was like one of those black and brown dogs. Yeah. But and then so they tie the dogs down to a fence and they go into this alleyway, and Ray pulls out his dick. We don't see the dick. We do later on in the movie see partial dick. Um, Not too much though, because again, if you know anything about rating systems, you can't see a penis fully in a movie unless it's flaccid. If it's erect in any kind, it will get NC-17. So you can't do that in films, and you have to be very specific about the flaccidness of a penis. And then vaginas never get shown, like ever. I think they can full frontal, but it has to be a bush. So you don't even actually see anything. But I would have to look into that more. Rating stuff is shit, but either way, and he has a Prince Albert piercing because of course he does. And if you don't know what that is, it is a piercing on the penis that goes from like their urethra and like curves around. So it comes out of their urethra and like to the outside. I don't know. You can look that up. Maybe. I don't know. You might not want to look that up because it is, you're going to see a penis with a piercing on it. So, but that is essentially what that is. And I'm like, of course he has that. And God, that scene is fucked up too when that happens. Not in like an assaulty way, but that was also another thing too, actually, because it's hinted that Colin might like pain later on, but we never see Ray be physically violent to him. He's only really like emotionally manipulative to him. But I will work my way to their dynamic eventually. So basically, they're in this alley. He pulls out his dick and he tells Colin to, suck on it. He's not good at it because this guy's a virgin, basically. And not Colin. Ray tells Colin to get down and lick his boot, and that gets him hard. I'm assuming, and then Colin goes back to giving him a blowjob, and you know, it kind of ends there. And I'm like, yeah, y'all just hooked up in an alleyway. That's a thing that people do. But, Colin is very, awkward and inexperienced, so he doesn't really, have that much experience with any of these dynamics, but he wants to see Ray more because Colin is someone who he's not really ugly, but I would understand why someone, especially like a dominant person, would be attracted to him because he looks so not pathetic, but but like he would just like do anything for you type of situation. Like he's got these eyes that I enjoy sometimes where I'm like, damn, you just want to like see them cry. And I'm like, that's the sadist in me, but cuz I'm like they're just big and round and I'm like, if you just like cried a little bit, that would be great. But but anyway, I was like, yeah, I see why, Ray, I see why you're into him. Like I get it. Like this man is submissive. But my thing about guys who are submissive and are like naturally submissive, it's like I feel a way if you're like wimpy and sort of pathetic in all aspects of your life, like at work or at school with your parents and something, and you lack confidence across the board. It's like, no, I only need that from you in the bedroom. Like otherwise, outside of the bedroom, you're confident. um Maybe you're not the boss, but like you're at least, you know some sort of role. like like I need you to have some level of confidence. I can't have you be pathetic across the board. Just be pathetic for me. Like that's it. I need you to be pathetic for me. And that is way more attractive than being pathetic across the board. Like I can't have that. I'm like I need you to, especially cuz okay, kind of getting back to aerodynamic because I'm a mirror it with like something that's happened to me before is like um Actually, I think this happened when the blowjob was happening too, because Ray says something along the lines of like, "What am I gonna do to you?" And Colin is just like, "You can do anything you want." And then there's like this level of desperation and within him, and like that has happened to me before, and that's a big turn off for me because I'm like, sure, I could do whatever I want to you, but I need some constraints here. Like, I need us to have a conversation, you know? Like, what I want to do to you might not align with what you actually want me to do to you. And we need to discuss this. Like, someone being down bad for me is one thing, but like that down bad for me where we're not even going to talk about anything, you know, it's like I need some level of communication. And I think that's where the tism comes into play because I'm like, I need directions or, like I was saying, constraints, right? Because, you know, for me, I thought I liked like inflicting pain and, you know, being sadistic in that way, but I realized that I'm more into it if a person likes it but doesn't necessarily like their pain tolerance is low and they would rather, you know, it'd be like spankings or toys that sound like a lot is happening and you're not actually really getting hurt that much. Like I like that more than actually causing physical pain and you know, scarring or something. Like I wouldn't want to go that extreme. I like the idea of it, and there are toys like that. There, like I have one that's just called like the slapper or something, and it makes a slapping sound, but it doesn't inflict that much pain. So the person getting hit with it thinks they're getting hurt like a lot, and then me being the one doing it will feel like I'm doing a lot, and I'm not actually doing that much. And so there's that, and it's also like I'm definitely someone who likes to tease a lot more. And I say that, and that could mean a lot of things. And I don't want to disclose too much about what I like to do because I'm like, okay, this is going to become way more explicit if I start talking about that stuff. But yeah, so it's like when Colin said that, I was like, oh, this is a giant red flag. This is a giant red flag because he doesn't have boundaries. And I'm like, no, everyone has a level that they can't, you know, go past. And he doesn't know what that is. And the fact that Ray is like, all right, we got him. We're going to take him. And I'm like, oh no, this is going to be terrible not for Ray, but for Colin. And so what happens later on is that like Ray picks up Colin and takes him to his house and is just like, all right, you're going to sleep on the ground. And he wakes up to an alarm and then when he goes to the alarm, there's like a list of stuff to do for Colin and Ray tells him that he wants him to have breakfast done for him, cleaning, and that if he leaves the house, or I can't remember if it's like he has to leave the house, but if he does leave the house, he can't come back in until after 6. So then he's also just stuck outside of the house. Oh, wait, yeah, because Colin has a job. He's like a meter maid, and which his job, people curse him out so much, but he doesn't care. But yeah, so Colin basically ends up being in this forced domestication situation, which um I know of people that would be so down for this because there's a level of in the ideal scenario, because this would be the ideal scenario is like a 24/7 dynamic where You are domesticated. You're essentially taken care of, like financially, so you don't really have to work. You are just forced to take care of this other person, and it is very much like a like you just do everything. And there are a lot of people that enjoy doing like servitude and serving their master and whatnot, and whether that is not only like the cooking and cleaning, but also just being sexually ready for their master or dominant to go at them throughout the day or whenever, you know. So there are people that would love like a 24/7 forced 24/7 domestication situation. Like that is a dynamic that people would enjoy. And I mean, it exists. Some people are part of this, but Colin's situation is more of like a part-time, and I'm saying forced because he didn't agree to this. This was just a thing that happened, and he's like, okay, I guess this is what we're doing now. Because again, they never talk about anything. They never talk about anything. Ray doesn't say words at all, really. He's just like, you do this, you do this. And Colin, because he's so down bad for this man and doesn't believe that someone like Ray would even be attracted to him, just goes along with it. And so we see Colin start to change a bit. And again, in the ideal scenario, this would also be a part of like a 24/7 DS, dom submissive, master slave, whatever situation, where not only are you cooking, cleaning, but your hairstyle is chosen for you, your clothes are chosen for you, all this stuff. But again, that is communicated beforehand. You also have safe words established. So if you did need a break, you could say something, you could say the safe word and then, break it off. And but yeah, so we see Colin start to change. Ray shaves off his hair, and I'm like, his hair was all right. It was kind of, he did that thing where, like, when you're shy and you don't want people to notice you, so you have like the bangs and stuff because if you don't see people, they don't see you. When it's like, no, that's not the case. You just look more awkward now, actually. But yeah, so his hair gets shaven off. Ray starts to dress him up in these more biker outfits, and he also gets him a chain, this really cool chain, and a lock on it that Ray has the key to, that he also wears as a necklace. And, Colin's not singing anymore. Ray has this piano at home, which Ray was like, oh, I didn't think you were the type to have, a piano. And there was this scene that was just like, oh, this is so sad. Where for me, I was just like, this is so sad because Ray was playing a song and Colin was just trying to hum along, and Ray was telling him to stop. And I'm like, God, you're taking away like his one joy from him, Jesus, because he can sing. And so there is a moment where Colin is over at his parents' house. You can insinuate that his mom is dying of cancer because she's bald and she goes through like all these different wigs. She wears scarves and stuff. And so his parents are just like, hey, so are we going to ever meet this Ray? Like, do you know anything about him? And Colin just is insistent on saying that Ray is someone who is discreet, which, uh, I'm like, that could be code for anything from he has a secret family somewhere to like he's on the run, or like it could mean anything. And my initial thought would definitely be that he is actually married and has a secret family and he's actually cheating. Because I'm like, discreet? The fuck? In this day and age, oh, you're cheating or something. Like, actually, I don't want to get involved with you. Like, unless you're a fucking celebrity who's like, paparazzi, we can't be public. Like, I got crazy fans, But even still, it's like you should be able to publicly be with your partner because what are we doing? You're an adult. Like, what are we doing? But either way, so Colin comes over again to Ray's and, just floats the idea of Ray coming over for this dinner. Oh, let me also talk about the other things. So, besides him only sleeping on the floor, he also doesn't eat at the table with Ray. He always like eats to the side of Ray. He doesn't sit on the couch with Ray. He sits behind Ray whenever they're in the living room watching something. Very much like sort of it's like a pet play, but also like this forced domestication thing. And it's like I love pet play, but I'm like, you're not gonna have your well, okay, Ray also physically has a dog, so I'm also like, yeah, he doesn't actually let his actual dog in his bed, but he does let his actual dog on his couch. And I'm like, damn, you're treating the dog better than you're treating Colin. But I will give him that. He doesn't let his dog in his bed, so why would he let Colin in his bed too? But still, I'm like, you let the dog on the couch though, so you're. But anyway, so Colin floats the idea of Ray coming over to meet his parents, and Ray's just like, the fuck would I do that for? And actually, let me talk about the way that Ray speaks to Colin, because he has such a stern way of speaking, and it's very authoritative, and it does come across as like you don't want to make this person upset because you just don't want to see it. And again, we never actually see Ray physically assault Colin or anything like that. But because I think his tone and everything, it does feel as though it's hard for Colin or anyone really to go against what Ray wants. And that's why I was like questioning where Alexander Skarsgård was from, because he isn't talking necessarily with like a Swedish accent or anything like that. It's not mm, like it's not British, it's not necessarily American either. Like I'll say American because he doesn't have like an accent, but he is speaking English. But either way, Ray definitely shuts that down real fast, and then Colin mentions the fact that his mom has cancer and, she's dying and stuff. And he's like, I'm not trying to guilt you or anything, but like, haha. And Ray's like, you would never make me feel bad about anything. I was like, God damn, Jesus Christ. Ah, ah. I'm like, dude, you could do better, Colin. There's so many different people out there. Ah, but either way, Ray does say he wants to do the dinner or whatever. So he comes over to Colin's parents' house, and his mom does not fucking like him. That's for fucking sure. He was just he just was again not talking about himself or anything like that, and they kept asking probing questions. The dad notices Colin getting up to get him a new beer and all this stuff, and his mom is just like, I just want to make sure that before I die, my son isn't with a fucking cunt. And I was like, yeah, mom, because he is a fucking cunt. But unfortunately, she does end up passing away. And this was shit. Actually, before I get into it, let me double check where the plot goes, because I want to make sure that the camp thing doesn't happen before she dies or after she dies. Okay. So I will run a little bit, because what happens is it's Colin's birthday. Ray doesn't do anything for him, but the other bikers, they all come together and do like a road trip, camping trip. And then we already kind of saw, like in the very beginning, that these bikers also had their own like subs and pets and things. Like there was one specifically that was wearing like the leather dog mask. which a lot of like pups wear. And I'm saying pups because that is, the term, the phrasing, and puppy play and all and whatnot. And it's like that's a whole other thing of like people wanting to be 24/7 in like dog mode essentially. And this is one of those things where it's very separate from like people who are furries, because with that it is a level of escapism, but it's not inherently sexual. And not that, because I'm like, there is definitely overlap as well, because I was about to say kink is inherently sexual, but not necessarily either, because some people do like there's this whole thing called littles, and it's people who dress up and act like children, and then their dominant is more of like a parent type, and that's not inherently sexual, but can be. And it ends up being like, a authoritative figure taking care of an adult baby essentially. And um this is when consent, not non-consent, can come into play as well, where it's like, okay, so this person is in this mode and you're like forcing them to eat their peas or something like that, right? And they're like, no, I don't want to do it. And that could be a part of the play as well, where you're getting forced to eat something you don't want to. But again, if you're saying no, that is a part of the play because that's not the safe word and you have a whole other safe word about it. And you can get something out of that. It doesn't have to be sexual, but something is happening there for both of y'all and both of y'all's dynamics. And again, it's consensual and you're talking it through. And so I'm like, there's just so many dynamics too in general, because I'm like, there's pups, there's ponies, um, and with ponies and horseplay, there's riders and stuff. Like I just said, there's littles, and what else can I think of? Those are like the main ones. I've seen like baby stuff and people in like adult diapers and whatnot. And I'm like, there's so many different things. And like I was saying with consent, non-consent, um, I was seeing someone try to have like a discussion about that because they were thinking that it's inherently like rape play or something. And it's like, consent, not consent is its own thing, and rape play is its own separate thing. But rape play can be in the umbrella of consent, non consent. It all comes down to it being consensual and discussing it with your partner. If you're not talking, like a like that's the whole thing with like kink and everything like that, is like you have to have a level of communicating with your partner. Y'all are talking about things. You are discussing stuff. Like that is the most important thing. And so to sort of go back to the movie, because I was like, I knew I was gonna talk about like all of this when I was talking about this movie, because I was like, there's just so many things this is touching on, and it's a great movie for people who are like thinking about getting into these dynamics, to understand that if they're caught in a situation like Colin is with Ray, that is not a healthy dynamic, and that is not what kink should look like when, because you're not actually talking to each other. And so when they're on this camping trip, Colin is able to talk to a different sub or Pillion, because I guess that's what Wikipedia was calling them that. And like, oh, okay, if they were called that, then that's cool. And so the guy talks about his dynamic and how he enjoys kissing and how he just would hate to not to hate to not be able to kiss the person he's with because that would suck. And the whole all of it's set up for all the Pillions or the subs to again be like more in these domestic situations where they're like cooking and stuff while the other doms are just doing whatever. And so there's a scene where all the pillions are ass out, stomach on table, just, ready to serve their masters. And the one pillion that Colin was talking to earlier is right next to him. And his partner comes over. He's more an older man who has a cane and everything like that. And I'm only saying that because it's like he used that cane strategically because he like hit his legs to spread them out more. And I was like, okay, yes, use your cane. And then so this guy's getting fucked next to him, and Colin is just like hopeful. Ray comes around to the front and is about to whip out his dick in front of Colin, but then he decides to put it in the mouth of the submissive next to him, which, fucking crushes Colin, because what the fuck? And then this is when we see his half chub. I mean, not half chub, but partial, partial penis. And the Prince Albert piercing as well. And I was like, oh, okay. Didn't expect that, but, they got to use that sparingly. And he gets sucked off a little bit, and then he moves over to Colin to get sucked off more, goes to the back of Colin, and I'm like, this man he doesn't, we only see him use lube once with Colin, and it ends up being Colin's first time, and he's also like, oh, I didn't know it would hurt that much, sorry, that was my first time, and I'm like, this man doesn't even do, like, foreplay or anything like that, I'm like, please, you have anal. I'm going to say this. Anal is not painful. It should not be painful. If you are aroused, you will be relaxed. You don't need relaxers for anal. If anything, you need a lot of lube because your ass does not produce its own liquid. So you need lube in there. You need fluids in there so that, you can actually fuck. But yeah, so it should not, like, if you are aroused, you should be fine. And so I'm just like, ah, use it. Use fucking lube. Eat people out. If you're gonna be in someone's ass, eat it out. Or something. Or finger them. He doesn't even finger Colin. I'm like, come on. Get him actually ready. I'm really gonna put explicit for this damn episode. But I'm like even when I'm fucking reading like some BL shit, I'm like, y'all just fuck and nothing else? Finger these people. Eat his ass. Something. Kiss him in the thighs. I don't like anything. That's a sensitive area. Please. Oh. Anyway, anyway, I'm like, I don't want to go rant about this, but like, goddamn, like it does kind of piss me off. I'm like, lube, spit isn't lube. It's not enough. You can use silicone based stuff that lasts a bit longer because but water based is perfect too, especially if you get like a gel rather than a regular water base because the gel is gonna be thicker and it is easier to clean up. That's like the main downside of silicone lube is that because it isn't water based, you kind of need to use like oil to clean it up. So it's much harder. It's much harder to clean up. And so if you're worried about like cleaning up and stuff, it's like just get a gel lube. It's fine. Um, sex education. I worked at a boutique boutique style sex shop. If you're in the Bay, you know which one I'm talking about. um, and I quit working there, but I did learn a lot and um got a bunch of like free toys or whatever. But either way, coming back to Colin and Ray in the campground because yeah, this is happening all outside during the day. And like, is that not what people do camping? No, I'm joking. Not everyone. People don't do that camping, but I do know of these like a kink gathering that happens in Northern California like once a year or something. And it's like, yeah, you come there with your partner and you're able to like do everything essentially. Lots of pony play stuff too. Like I was saying, I'm like, it's cute, it's wholesome. I mean, it's I I use the word cute for a lot of different things. I do not discriminate with that word. Should probably be more specific, but it's sexy. It's sexy. And it's always interesting to be in like sort of a group sex setting where you're able to see all different kinds of bodies enjoying themselves in a sexual sense. Like that's always fascinating because I feel like our social media, and not only that but like just thinking about celebrities and stuff, they look a certain way, and these are just regular people. And sometimes, or a lot of the times, a lot of these people, the most interesting thing about them is that they're in kink, and but it is like something for a lot of people that they get a lot of enjoyment from, and it's a way of doing escapism. And like I was kind of mentioning before, it's like in a lot of ways, kink and play, or doing a scene and something is like escapism, and you being in a safe space to live out your fantasies with someone who loves you. And and again, this is an ideal situation because I know it is really hard to find a partner who understands you in this way and wants to explore these things with you. Like it's really hard. It's just hard, and that's like one of those things where I like why I've been single for a while now, because I like, yes, I am a kinky person, I am a dominant, I would love a submissive man, but ultimately I do want partnership. I want someone who will feel like my best friend and be supportive of me, and just someone who is just funny, like can make me laugh or whatever, and I just feel at home with them, like that is what I want ultimately. And kink can be added on later, I would hope, but it's not like a deal breaker for me. And at this point it's like, yeah, I kind of just need to put myself out there, and it's like I am someone who's non-binary and everything like that, so it's also like to be with someone who understands like gender, and then I'm a black person so who understands like race stuff, and so there's levels to it, and nobody's perfect, but I'm like you got to at least respect me to, use the pronouns that I choose, to see me more than like my body or the body I was born with, and understand that I'm like mm, this expansive, multifaceted person, just like anybody else. But I would hope that my partner would understand, and or at least like accept the different parts of my not only lived reality but my personality and my interests and stuff. And I'm like, I don't think I'm asking for too much, but it's like, you know, do the people that I meet who are interested in me care enough to know? Or do they want my body, Or do they want me to stomp on them? Okay, but oh man. I'm like, my mind just went somewhere else. Let me come back. I'm like, I know I just talked explicitly about like, I mean, that wasn't even. It wasn't that explicit, but if you're not used to someone saying finger someone's ass, then yes, that was explicit. I'm like, I could have said it like finger the anus. Use a finger in the butthole. I could have used it more like a medically sound. But I was upset. Either way, so Ray starts having sex with Colin, and then he tells Colin to get on his back, so now they're looking at each other, and Ray puts his hands over Colin's mouth, and I'm like, are y'all about to do y'all gonna get into breath play or something? That's not what's about to happen. And Ray moves to kiss his hands, and they're first sort of kissing Colin through his hands and wishes him a happy birthday, I think, from what I remember. And Colin's happy because he's like, oh my god, I got a kiss. And I'm like, no, you deserve better than this, Colin. You need better than this. And so after this is when the dinner happens and when his mom calls him a fucking cunt. And so later on after this, Colin's mom does end up passing away, and, unfortunately, Colin was still with Ray, so sadly, she died knowing that her son was with a fucking cunt. But Ray doesn't fucking go to the funeral. We see Colin in his funeral outfit waiting outside the door of Ray's house, and I was like, oh, maybe Ray just didn't know. But no, Ray is like, how was it? And I was like, the fuck, you couldn't even show up for this fucking man's mom's funeral? Like, you're a piece of shit. Um, because I'm like, yeah, it is truly giving like he's on the DL. He's a DL man, like someone who is gay but doesn't want to be publicly gay. Because, I used to think of DL, and I think maybe there are some aspects of this for some people, but I used to think of DL as like, oh, this is someone who is in denial of being gay. But no, there are definitely people who are on the DL, which just means down low, who are DL, but they know they're gay. They realize that they can't be publicly gay for whatever reason, or like they have this thought that they couldn't publicly be gay. They are married, they have children and everything like that, but they still seek out sex with gay men. And even sex with gay men who are publicly gay. And they're like, no, I'm on the DL. I can't. We got to have our relationship be in secret. Like, fuck you. Everyone deserves better than that. Like, everyone deserves to be loved openly and honestly by their partner. That's it. And so, Colin is still expected to do his domestic shit and is trying to cook dinner for Ray, and he just can't do it. Like, he loses himself and even purposely burns his hands on the pot that's cooking, boiling, and he's like, crying and everything on the ground. And Ray, this is like the first time we're seeing Ray be like sort of empathetic towards Colin. And he gets Colin to sit on the couch for the first time. I'm like, they've been doing this thing for a few months at this point, maybe half a year at this point. Like, it's almost the holidays again, I think. And Ray orders pizza, and I'm like, wow, you're not like super strict about your diet. Oh my god. Ray even makes like a silly joke at Colin, and I'm like, wow, oh my god, some sort of emotion from this man. That's crazy. And Ray even offers to have Colin sleep in the bed with him for the first time. First time. And Colin is so happy about this, and Ray cuddles him in his sleep. Not he wouldn't consciously cuddle this man. But either way, he's so excited. But then the next day, it's business as usual. And Colin's like, "Can I sleep in your bed again?" And Ray's like, "The fuck? No, not at all." And Ray, goes to sleep. Colin waits for him to fall asleep again, and he just tries to sneak in the bed. And Ray wakes up and kicks him out of the bed. And then at some point, Colin tries to crawl under the sheets from the foot of the bed, and Ray kicks him out and tells him to sleep in the hallway. And so at this point, I'm realizing that, like, okay, Colin is finally, trying to advocate for himself. It sucks that he had to lose his parent to have a wake up call, but I feel like, unfortunately, that's one of those things that just has to happen for him to, like, understand that his life is not going the way he wants it to. And so Colin becomes brave and is like, "Can we just have, like, a day where I don't do this? Like, sort of a day off?" And Ray's just like, "What are you talking about? No. What are you saying? No." And then the next day, because this is always how it is for some reason with Ray, it's like, "Oh, if it's my idea, then it's okay. If it's your idea, no." And so Ray's like, he's not wearing his leather anything. He's wearing plaid. He's like, and he's making breakfast and stuff. And I was like, "Oh my God, that's crazy. Colin's getting everything he wants." And Ray's like, "What do you want to do today? We're going to just do whatever you want." And Colin's like, "We can do whatever you want." And Ray's like, "No, no, no. This is your day. We're going to do what you want." So they go to the theater, they go to the movies. Ray fucking jerks him off in the theater. We don't see that, but they get chased out of the theater by like a usher or something. He's like, "Y'all better clean those uh seats." I was like, "Oh, that's silly." And I'm like, "Look at them, they're having fun. Ray's smiling." They hang out and Ray's like, "Why don't you teach me how to sing?" Colin's humming. And I'm like, y'all are probably, as I'm saying and describing this stuff, y'all are probably understanding that this is leading up to Ray leaving him. I'm like, nope, he wasn't just doing this for no reason. But getting back to it, Colin starts humming something. Ray tries to mimic him. He's not good at it. They're laughing about it, and they go up to these ladies, and Ray's just like, "Between us, who is the better at singing?" And the lady's like, "Oh, definitely him." I'm like, I'm like, "Ray, are you fucking jealous as well? You're not talented?" Like, and then they run off and they make out publicly in this park. But there's this face that Ray makes where he just looks really sad, and I was just like, "Oh no, he's gonna fucking run. He's gonna fucking leave." And so the next day he is gone. The apartment's empty, even. Like, he's not there. He literally fucking leaves. And so there's a montage of Colin spending time with his dad, going to different campgrounds and, different spaces where these bikers might meet up, and they can't find him at all. And I was like, please don't end the movie here where he's just like looking for this man. Thank God it's a time jump. And we see Colin, his hair has grown out more. Thankfully, he doesn't have the chain on anymore either. He's singing again in his quartet. I'm like, love that for you, because Colin, you have an amazing voice. You're doing stuff that's fun. And we hear him. He does a voiceover where he is essentially writing a dating profile on I'm assuming like a kink site, because he talks about wanting to do the domestication thing because he is into it. But he's like, "I do need a day off. These are my want, like this is what he needs and everything." And I'm like, "Yes, Colin, you're doing it. You're saying what you want. You're putting yourself out there." And it's really, what's really nice about this stuff is that you can state what you're into and what you want. and you will hopefully match up with people who are also into those things and want the same things. But unfortunately, I've run into stuff way in the past, like in my early 20s. I'm 32. I'm going to be 33 this year. Early 20s though, like I would maybe try to meet up with people and they weren't actually submissive. They just wanted to have sex with me and I was like, that's not what? Like I wanted to dominate you, not just do fucking missionary. Like this isn't what I signed up for. So that was annoying. Like I would run into situations like that. Or I would run into people who were interested in me that were much older than me. And I was like, I don't want that either. No. um, because I wanted to be, at the time I wanted to be with someone who was around my age, maybe not as experienced as well. And then we could like sort of grow into what we wanted, like I wanted that. Like I thought that would be cute. That didn't happen, of course, because otherwise I would be currently with someone and probably talking more about that. But no, that didn't happen. And like I said, kink isn't really a deal breaker for me. Like it's a addition, especially because I am someone who is ace, demisexual. Anything sex related for me is more of an added bonus, but not a requirement because I'm not someone who is sex repulsed like that. And there are people who are on the A spectrum who are sex repulsed, but I'm not. I think of sex as a fun activity and a way to have intimacy with your partner, a level of closeness with your partner, and it's a fun activity. But back to Colin, he's setting up this dating profile on like a kink site, and we see him meet up with someone. It's a black person. I'm like, okay, black guy, all right. And I'm like, ooh, this is like a reverse race play sort of situation. And they meet up. Colin, unprompted, ties this man's shoe, and this guy's so into that. And they're both into each other, and then they walk off, and it's the end of the movie. And I was like, yes, Colin, yes, you're getting what you want. And you're advocating for yourself, and you're talking about your needs. And hopefully, this is a better situation. And I'm not in a race play at all because I think if a non-black person called me the N-word of any kind, my ancestors would awaken in me and I would need to like beat the shit out of them. Oh my god. Like I just would not be okay. But the reversal of that where I'm, dominating a white man, like ancestors again, wake up, but in a like, yes, we approve situation. Yeah, but I don't. No, I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna do that. I'm like a white man would have to be overly exceptional. Like not only just like understand race stuff, understand sex, sexual, understand gender stuff because gender and sex are two separate. They're separate from each other. But I'm like also be actively anti like Trump shit or activist or something like that. Have to be like doing amazing things for me to be like, yes, white man, I will dominate. Like in that instance, if I'm with a white partner, I would be dominating them. Like that would just be it. And then they would also be exceptional. Like they would have to be above and beyond doing phenomenal. And I'm like, that is a unicorn, and I'm not looking for unicorns. So but yeah, I was like, this is a great movie to sort of talk about these kink dynamics that some people might fall into without understanding um anything about kink, and I'm glad that it was explored in this movie. And it also inspired me too because I was like, damn, I really could make a movie about anything, and it would be really fun to make like a movie about some of my own experiences. I mean, I don't have that many, but you know, even what I just talked about, it's like, yeah, I am in the know. They also had a intimacy coordinator, which I loved because that was my thing too, because I feel like there was a level of realism here. And I was like, I don't know mm, how far I would go, but I would want to protect, the people involved, of course, and make sure everyone's comfortable. So, like, having an intimacy coordinator in this regard that is, into kink and stuff would be really helpful. So I'm like, maybe I'll make a short or something in the future. I mean, this was also a pretty funny movie too, but it was like that awkward, dry humor that is in like British comedies a lot of the time. So it was like, oh god, this is just awkward. I have to laugh because I'm feeling the secondhand embarrassment. Woo. But, it was really good. And yeah, that's my second movie of the year. Look at that. What else do I want to talk about? I didn't think I would only talk about one movie for all this, but I did insert a lot of just like other stuff and like personal anecdotes and proper anal practices. And I'm definitely gonna mark explicit for this, so hopefully um I don't know, like a younger audience doesn't find this, I guess. What am I doing? Oh, but yeah, I don't know. It was a good movie. I think I'm gonna watch Bride, Maggie Gyllenhaal's movie next, and talk about that. Ooh, we're like 3 weeks out from Jackson Wang's concert. I'm probably gonna do a mini-sode on my experience with that, or like it'll be like a Patreon exclusive thing. We'll see. I haven't done anything for Patreon yet, as of yet, but that's okay. It's all right. Speaking of, you can find me on Instagram at V_noir_, and that's noir with an E. My podcast archive, I don't know why my voice just did that. My podcast archive is at www.nwwitapod.com. It's officially live. I'm going to have my blog on there instead of on Substack because I want everything in one place. And I just need to work on posting blog episodes. And then you can support me on Patreon at patreon.com/VNoirsFilmClub. Again, I hope to post on there. And it'll be like my actual face because because I'm like, this is a podcast. I don't really see the need to be in front of a camera. Like right now, I'm in my skeleton onesie because I like being comfortable. But I don't really feel the need to be in front of a camera while recording what I'm saying. Like, my facial expressions might be kind of funny, but you're listening to this. And even if I was in front of the camera, you would still be listening to it rather than paying attention to what my face is doing. So, I don't know. We'll see. But otherwise, until next time, bye.